Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Discuss with Us. I'm Russell Rivera, founder and president of Voice Wealth Management, and this is episode 7 of Discuss with Russ, Marketing in the New Normal. And my guest this afternoon will be Alex Griffin, founder and CEO of Giggrabbers. For those of you tuning in today for the first time, the Discuss with Russ series is focused on helping you get through the crisis and start thinking and planning for what the world might look like after the crisis is over. Not just once we can leave our homes and see each other face to face again, though obviously some of us have started to do that somewhat, to anticipate possible responses in society's behavior so you can be most prepared to succeed. My firm, Voice Wealth Management, primarily works with entrepreneurs, young professionals, and their families to help them get the most out of their money. While I'm a chartered financial analyst and certified financial planner, you also see me as their personal CFO, even a financial therapist, because I recognize the psychological power of money in addition to using short-term and long-term planning to help you get the most out of every dollar you earn and use. And now, let's get to our guest. Alex Griffin is a Georgetown, Guyana native who currently resides in New York. He's a father of one and married to his wife, Christy. Alex is the founder and CEO of Giggrabbers, an award-winning online freelance marketplace that connects people and businesses, freelancers, to get work and projects done. He started in 2015 to better support musicians looking for gigs after not getting paid for a gig himself, and has grown the company to serve thousands of freelancers and employers around the world. Alex currently serves as a mentor to entrepreneurs and is personally invested in creating solutions for the youth justice system in New York City. And with that, I'd like to welcome Alex to our show today. How are you, Alex?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, Russell, for that really good introduction. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're certainly welcome. And so, hope we'll have a little bit of fun today as well as informing our audience. Let me start a little bit. We've been, things are changing rapidly. We're maybe now starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and at least till we can sort of see a future. Instead of being in our holes a little bit. But I want to ask you a little bit about what's been going on during the crisis and even a little bit before. So tell me a little bit about how businesses, large and small, are changing how they've been marketing themselves, right? Large businesses have often had large in-house teams or worked with large agencies. Smaller businesses have been tending to work more with freelancer types or people who are, don't even call it agencies, but individuals who are market their services, right? Or their tiny firms. Is it correct? Tell me a little bit more about that landscape.
Yeah, well, that was the case for a long time. And then, freelancers became really, the use of freelancers became a really, really big trend, within the last decade, especially, through the use of online marketplaces and platforms. And so today, small and big businesses are working with freelancers and have increased the use of platforms like Giggrabbers. Online marketplaces have, made it a lot easier for professionals, of all skills and various professions, easier to market themselves on a global level. And so, if you had a freelancer that was working, that happened to land a contract with one company that was, either local or even national, now, they have the marketplace and a platform to reach folks on a global level. Even as these companies have started to leverage these platforms a lot more.
Thank you. And I apologize. I want to take care of some housekeeping issues, which I'd forgotten to mention. Throughout our conversation, if you do have a question, you can use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. It'll get to Alex and myself, and we'll try to answer it as need be. And of course, this is being recorded not just now, but it's also being streamed out on Facebook Live. We got that worked out. And again, just so everybody knows the ground rules and where we are today. That's good to hear. So how is that developed in the sense of, with more people going on their own and trying to, they're marketing professionals or SEO professionals, how has that market developed, and how is something like You mentioned, I think you mentioned Upwork, Fiverr. How is that, those platforms helping to get people together and help small business in general?
Yeah, well, digital skills in general are on the rise. Technology is changing every single day, and so you have a lot of what the platforms allow is for folks of with various skills where SEO is a really high demand skill at this point. Will continue to be of like significant importance over the next within the next decade at least. And so these platforms have provided a lot of space for companies to just be get the highest quality talent with the most in demand skills. So Upwork, Fiverr, business has increased for us as well over the last even during the pandemic. A lot more folks are remote, looking to hire talent remotely, and also talent that can offer the the same level of skills and work in a more cost-effective way.
So, and that's one thing that I think is obviously happened out of this, right? Most people who work in marketing, they work in front of a computer. They're what you would call a knowledge-based employee. So they can work from home, which is fine for people in those businesses. But other changes have had to come out of the crisis. It's great that you can find a marketing professional and that they're in business. But what about the marketers, right? In the sense of people aren't spending, so that hurt marketing budgets, even for small businesses. And obviously, some of them aren't necessarily are going to have trouble surviving because people can't spend money when they're locked inside their homes, and may spend differently when they come out. So, how are these small businesses managing their marketing right now?
Yeah, well, so I think spend on digital marketing has certainly increased. During the last over the last couple of months, so folks aren't spending a lot of money or as much money as they would on on the ground marketing, product marketing, in certain places. You had companies that were hiring product ambassadors or event ambassadors to market their companies and market their products and services, and those are tremendously down. Everybody's at home. And so, with more traffic online on, social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, even your online streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, the audience reach and potential is a lot higher. And so, businesses at this point are thinking about, how to leverage that in a way that's smart, right? Because also, there is a strain right now on budgets, because of the crisis. And so, folks are kind of, caught in between thinking about the opportunities that are available, given that everyone is home, and are shifting more to digital marketing, strategies. And so spending a lot more on Facebook ad spend, YouTube, Google advertising. I've also, seen a lot of folks actually, hire folks on the platform to, redesign their websites, to, create brand new websites, do research for new business ideas and business concepts. And so we're seeing a lot of uptake, not just in digital marketing, but also just in entrepreneurship and, small business or just business ventures in general.
That's got to be exciting. And obviously, if you're a person who lost a job, I think about people I know who are performers and are trying to do what they can do to bring a few days together to eat, pay rent, whatever it is need to do, because obviously performing in a crowd is not something that's going to be happening in the next several months. So I understand it, and using your skills in a different way, and then finding ways to communicate those skills makes some sense, right?
Yeah, it's also digital marketing is also a lot cheaper now because there's more demand, from the buyer's standpoint, right? Since a lot more, I think Facebook in their last earnings report said that they did see a drop in small business, ad spend in early March, but then saw an uptick, within the last, couple of weeks of March and then into April. And so, that's interesting. And then also, with more folks online, that also, has an impact on, what you can get for your buck.
Fair enough. Very good. So I mean, I guess, but if everybody is moving towards these digital platforms, how's it affecting rates? How's it affecting the ability to land on who you want to land it to? I know people are spending probably more time on these platforms, obviously, since what they have is their computers, but and or their other digital tools that they use to interact with the world. But if you're a small business and you're trying to create a footprint, if everybody's crowding to that space, how do you get through?
Yeah, well, so that's where hiring an expert, right, comes in. So if you're a small business owner, you're trying to do this on your own. I know this might be the first time that you're using Facebook advertising tools, and there is a lot of jargon. There is a learning curve out of using these platforms. They're all different, right? If you want to advertise on LinkedIn, targeting tools and all of the tools that they have on there are a lot different from Facebook. And that's across the board for any digital marketing platform, that you're going to use. And so, with a lot more of your audience on these platforms, you definitely don't want to get lost in the crowd, right? And so, what you want to do is make sure that you're targeting using detailed targeting. Facebook has some really, really cool tools that allow you to create lookalike audiences. Those are audiences that are based off of, who's actually, been to your website or, exercise a certain action or behavior on your website. But, all these things are, it's a part of there are things that a business owner might not necessarily know. They're engaging, with these tools for the first time.
So obviously hiring an expert can help. The one of those tools that you mentioned, and somebody in our chat section about, and again, try to use the Q&A tool to ask questions so that we can find those a little bit easier. I think they misheard us, asked about SEO. I think they heard. So tell us a little bit about what SEO is, so we can answer their question.
Sure. Yeah. So SEO is an acronym. It stands for Search Engine Optimization, which essentially means that your website is optimized for search engines like Google, Bing. Those are the top search engines that are out there. And the process involves or entails setting up your website on the coding side, which is mostly described as the back end. And on the front end, in terms of, the resources that you're using, resources, an example, the visuals that you're using, the images, to ensure that your website is optimized right for Google. And so a really good example, so Giggrabbers is optimized, for certain keywords. If you searched, hire a freelancer on Google, you might see us on the first or second page. And that can only happen if we're optimized right for that. And so you want to make sure that your online stores or your online websites are optimized in a way that they would show up in search results if your potential customers or your audience is looking for something that relates to your business or looking for your service or product.
One of the questions that, and I hope that answers a viewer's question, and of course can follow up if need be. One of the questions that we've yet to see answered, in the broader sense, is how businesses deal with what may be permanent changes in how they use and or locate their people. Do you think that this can cause a change in how smaller companies market themselves?
Yeah, I mean, so digital marketing in itself is a challenge. You do have to see the investment on your return, right? And so, frankly, I think if folks see digital marketing as a really good idea in this moment or during this time, and they don't see the investment or the return on their investment, that can leave a bad taste in their mouths. And so, I do think in the long term, the digital marketing will have a stronger pull and presence, and will be used a lot more by small businesses and big businesses alike. I think it'll come down to how effective you are using digital marketing strategies to actually convert potential customers into customers or clients.
You mentioned specifically about ROI and even trying to market my own business. One of the issues I've dealt with or have always wondered about is how to measure and what kind of even ROI to expect. Especially through some of these digital platforms. Whether you boost an ad, whether you boost an ad for $50 or you build a whole new website for thousands of dollars or engage in a large scale marketing effort that might cost you 6 or 7 figures. Obviously, we're dealing with all different types of scales of businesses when we're talking about that. What are the, how do you measure and what are the expectations for return on investment for for someone trying to market themselves?
Yeah, so in order for you to even begin measuring that, right, you have to make sure things are set up on your website, right, to track where your traffic is coming from, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to even measure your return on whatever investment you made into digital marketing platforms at all, right? And so one of the things you want to do is make sure that you're tracking that information. It asks your web designer to, it's the how did you hear about us, right, form. If you have a sign up form on your website, you definitely want to be tracking that if you're spending money, and you care about the money that you're spending, on these digital platforms. Most of these platforms allow you to set up pixels. They're called pixels, on your website that allows you to, track, what's happening from traffic that are coming from their platforms as well. And so you want to have those things set up, and then that puts you in a position to, be able to say, well, hey, I'm spending $1,000 a month on pushing ads on Facebook, and X amount of users or clients, said that they heard about us on Facebook. If it's 500, then that's great, right? And then whatever value that means to your business, maybe the value is that they actually purchased a product or actually purchased a service, or maybe the value is just that they signed up. I think a lot of folks have gotten confused with, what the purpose, or I guess the opportunities that the primary opportunities that are available, right, on digital marketing platforms. I'm a big fan or big believer in the fact that, digital marketing, especially on platforms like Facebook, is a really good tool to promote your brand and to create, brand awareness. And, ultimately the goal is to convert, right, some folks in those audiences to buying customers or clients. But brand awareness is also a reasonable, investment, and so it's fine. On the other hand, if things aren't converting, but you're spending money, on just pushing your brand and bringing about awareness on your brand. But if you do want to track, conversions, you definitely want to make sure that you have those things set up so you can, track, how much you're spending and whether or not, you're spending efficiently.
Yeah, and as someone who's a minuscule business solopreneur, I think managing one of these things is, and trying to manage marketing, how you're doing it, creating content, if that's something you're into, as clearly I am. I guess the question is like, how do you make sure you're not doing it in a willy-nilly fashion and could be in a more curated fashion that actually has a plan and can actually look at the results you're getting, right? The things you need to put in place to kind of figure out how you have results, but in terms of what, when one person, like, what do you focus on? How do you focus on it? How do you get it all done?
Yeah, so which is why, and folks actually spend a lot of time trying to figure this out, right? And that, every client that I work with, I always let them know that they should be focusing not on marketing, right, but on, actually, growing their business, right, talking to clients, focusing on sales, focusing on, company development, right, or business development in general, and because it does take, it can end up, becoming a very time-consuming process, right? To think about what exactly you want to say in a post, right? How effective is it? Also, what type of media piece you're going to use, right? What image are you going to use? And all these things are really, really important, right? Also, one thing that I found is a lot of business owners are very particular, right, about, their posts. And marketers, the first thing one of the first rules you learn in marketing is that, marketing is about, grabbing somebody's attention, right? Like that is the ultimate goal. And so sometimes, you do whatever you got to do, right, to get the attention, and you drive that traffic. But a lot of business owners are reluctant to even try, some of those attention grabbing, strategies, because they're concerned about, how it might make their business look, when these strategies are actually effective, right, at getting customers, into the door. And so, those are some things that you definitely want to have, in the hands of a specialist if you can, right? These are guys that are that have, delivered results. And so, and frankly, aside from that, just with regards to the time that it takes to come up with, an effective post, right? And also find, content, whether it's an image or video, or, promotion or like whatever. That stuff takes up a lot of time as well.
Good. So, when I think about people on your platform, right? Someone who might use your platform, I think of outsourcing, right? And outsourcing, I was actually on another talking about global commerce and how that the internet has globalized us and allowed us to, for example, listen to a speaker from Switzerland, as I did this morning for a Manhattan meeting, which obviously in an in-person setting we would be able to do. But pivoting from that, it's generally been an international phenomenon. And I know we've got all the people that you have on your platform that are international, non-US. And it's the same for many other platforms as well. And when you think of international, you think China, you think of India, yes, in larger business parlance. But in this crisis, it seems like many are concerned. I don't want to say concerned, but are thinking we're entering a phase of deglobalization, at least in some areas. How do you think the trends of deglobalization and balancing the interconnectedness of using the computer versus the need to be resilient by onshoring things, particularly maybe in terms of supply chain, will balance out over the coming months and years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Russell. So I think, while as a large, economic phenomenon that happens globally, globalization might be implicated, right? For political reasons, for I don't think all of it, goes away. And I think that there's still a segment of it that continues to go strong. I think social media for sure I don't see that going away, and that's a part of like the whole, globalization story, right? Also, it's super beneficial, especially for businesses, right, or for any buyer of a service, to have as much options as possible, right? That brings down price. That also, can have some impacts on, quality of services. If there's a lot of competition, and so all those things are really good, and businesses, like them. And I think, on the other hand, folks are starting to realize that, you don't necessarily need someone from a particular place, right, to have someone who's necessarily good at a particular skill. And that has been early on, in freelancing, in the freelance world, in the gig economy. A lot of folks, were reluctant to hire someone that was, outside of the country or outside of their countries, whether that was from, hiring out of China or hiring out of the States. And the fact is that it's just not, a really good practice, to be utilizing, right? Because you might actually be hurting yourself in the process, right? And so on our platform, we've seen folks hire outside of the U.S. And are really satisfied with the results. So on that note, I think, that globalization, right, when it comes to, e-commerce, when it comes to, social media platforms, when it comes to, freelance marketplaces, those segments won't be impacted in a negative way at all. I actually think these things are good for the world, actually. And the last point I'll make is that, we had a situation where we had a freelancer who was actually from India. This guy was like, had a lot of accolades. He was, had a master's degree, in graphic design, and he's arguably as skilled. These guys are working for top companies, right? And they're also selling their services, online, and they can actually provide their services to a small business in New York or California or Miami, and that's great, and so those things are good for the world, and so I don't see it slowing down, even as deglobalization, or the idea, the notion of it, increases.
Fair enough. At the same time, right, freelancers, gig economy workers have been hit particularly hard. So, right, and I hope I'm going over covered territory, but you have market budget shrinking, all sorts of small businesses under threat. I know I'm repeating myself maybe a little bit from before. What this flies in the face of, to some extent, are prior trends of increasing entrepreneurship. The fact that maybe even 1 out of 3 workers, I forget where I saw the data, might be somewhat self-employed. And the idea of this gig economy that has been kind of the one of the hot terms of the last decade, as whether it's Uber drivers or people on your platform, or just people who keep themselves going by doing tasks like, being an assistant part-time and doing dog walking and putting together a patchwork of different things in order to get themselves through, and to be able to live. At the same time, there is, as a result of this shock, there might be a lot of people who no longer want to go that route. But then again, the result of this shock, there may not be jobs in the regular world that might provide a little bit more stability that are available. So how do you think that will shake out as merge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the gig economy is huge, right? And folks tend to think about the gig economy in a very singular way, and very closed-minded perspective. And while it's huge, I mean, Uber and Lyft are part of the gig economy, but they're very different from platforms like Giggrabbers, Upwork or Fiverr, right? And so as you segment, the gig economy, and you begin to look at the different segments of the gig economy, you'll see what you're talking about, which is that a lot of those segments are under threat. I mean, we're seeing it with Uber, right? Uber as a business, and Lyft, the car hailing services, literally saw, a huge decrease, right, in business. They're laying folks off, and because of the pandemic, right, because folks aren't getting in cars, right, and but for providers of digital services, right, or the gig economy, that is the segment that is all about digital services, those aren't really impacted to the same extent because the services are digital, right? We're not meeting in person. I can design your website from my home. I can do your SEO, right? From my home, and so those services haven't or that segment of the gig economy hasn't been battered as much. For solopreneurship, I mean, that is more of an interesting phenomenon. I think we're still seeing, we still have yet to see what the outcomes will be. The Times just had an article that about there being an increase in applications for EIN numbers. So even though it's down from 20 years ago, all right, it's actually seen an uptick recently, and I think this pandemic has caused a lot of folks to think about more independent economical futures, right? Whether that's starting a business or becoming a solopreneur or starting their own companies, right? I think we'll see some of the best companies actually emerge from this crisis. That's the way Uber started as well. So I think that that is an interesting phenomenon to watch. I think it's definitely important to think about the gig economy in segments, and the last thing I'll say is that marketing budgets have shrunk across the board, and because they're shrunk, I think folks are thinking about the best and most cost-effective way to still market, right? Because not every business actually did shut down. So folks are kind of like conflicted right now too, thinking about like the opportunities that exist now, right? Because a lot more folks are home, but also this pandemic, right? That's the larger context, right, for everything.
Yeah, it's true. There's obviously a lot going on, but we always want to, especially at this point in the show, we'll want to be thinking forward. We want to be thinking about what's coming next, because there is opportunity out there, and it's just a matter of how you find your way to grab it. If it's something you want to do, because again, like you said, it is out there. There is a question from the audience, and again, if you do have an audience question, please use the Q&A tab. I am seeing a couple of questions in the chat as well. So platforms like yours and the others you mentioned, do they vet the participating freelancers? Some people are worried about obviously understanding the quality of their work. And for a large extent, there's also a concern about intellectual property theft and what comes along with that as well. So explain how platforms like yours deal with those two issues.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Gareth. Thanks. So we do vet freelancers in the sense that we review almost every profile, right, that's on the platform, and also it's a very, very large marketplace, and so that's also very tall order, right, in terms of vetting every freelancer. But we do on the front end, and so there are certain requirements, right, that have to be met, right, before freelancers can actually join the platform. And then also on the back end, after there's a post assessment that happens where we do review profiles and either make recommendations or delist accounts from the platform. It's in our best interest to provide the best or high quality talent And so on the other hand, the marketplace does, serve as a platform that provides a pool of applicants, right? And so there is, a certain level of due diligence that's required, by the employer as well. And so some things that we have to make a hire, more safe or more secure or more likely to be successful ultimately is, that one, freelancers do have to submit a proposal, right, for every project that's on the platform. They also have to, or highly encouraged to have a portfolio that, employers can look at. And, so ultimately, if you have a project on the platform, right, if you have 10 to 20 freelancers that apply to that project, you can compare and contrast them, by looking at their proposals. Their profiles are also attached. And so those things are also in place to, to help with, making sure that you hire, strongly. And we're always, thinking about, increasing security. On our end, one of the benefits of the platform is that funds are held in escrow for projects. And so, funds aren't going directly to freelancers up until, the project's out of complete. Or now we can't, we're not going to hold funds if the job, was bad, right? I think, everybody does a bad job, he's got to fire a guy, right? But we do have measures in place, where, projects can be disputed. Like, so if a freelancer did not complete their services or complete, what they said they would, we have the flexibility to return those funds, to the employer. I hope that answers your question, Gareth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think that's always a question when you're dealing with a freelancer, whether within your platform or outside of it, right? Is how do you get comfortable with work that they're doing before you actually make the decision to hire, and what is the relationship you have with them to help hold them accountable? I know, having dealt with one or two myself, it's great. I got a recommendation about somebody in particular, and then decided to move forward with that. And obviously hold them accountable. Obviously talk to them. You can do a bunch of different things. So that's always interesting. Is there any other questions? Be happy to take them. Otherwise, we're going to start to wrap it up. Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to discuss, Alex, about about our talk today? That about what might look like a new normal or anything like
that? No, it's definitely an interesting time, and I know that Russell, right? You're working with a lot of clients as well, and so. I imagine that you're hearing stories and you're seeing things that are super challenging across the board. But I think that we will get through this, and it's going to be interesting to see how folks pivot. I think there's a really great opportunity right now to think about how you can serve your clients or customers in a different way, right? And because I also think that a lot of these trends and a lot of these new ways of working will actually, stay permanent right after the pandemic. You have some companies that are, saying, hey, work from home for the rest of the year, right? Some companies might be, entirely virtual, right? In terms of like the delivery of products and services.
Yeah, I've seen companies that have been saying, we'll have some portion of our workforce, like, you're not coming back to the office. My sister works out in Silicon Valley, and at her company, you're not coming back till 2021. So she decided to move 45 minutes away to the beach for the summer. It's interesting that she's getting to do that. But it's certainly. I'm sorry, I feel like I interrupted you.
Oh, I'm still here.
So yeah, no, you're right. A lot of changes are still ongoing, and today until 2021, I think will work for certain people, but also at my wife's firm, it's like all the people are itching back to the office. So, and itching to see people again professionally. So there are a lot of things going on here that will shake things out. We just got it. I'm sorry?
Yeah, a lot of innovation as well, right? Because, I think, for one, part of business is about reducing overhead, right? I think companies are thinking about that now. A lot of folks have actually realized that they can function, without, the overhead of, either paying rent or, owning a brick and mortar store or location. And so it's really, really interesting. And also I think folks are forced to think about ways in which, they can provide their services differently. And so just to create a distinction from what I said before, I'm talking about construction companies, right? Thinking about, how to do, put up buildings, right, in a way that's more safe and different. So this is really impacting industries across the board. And I think we'll see ultimately, even though this is a terrible time, and we've lost a lot of of people, that at the end of it, we will come out with a lot of strong ideas and innovations.
So I guess we have one more audience question. I'm not, any tips on creating different content for LinkedIn versus Facebook or Instagram?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Any tips on creating different content for LinkedIn versus Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah. So I think across the board, general rule of thumb is you definitely want to have some form of media, right? Whether you're using LinkedIn or Facebook, or definitely Instagram, right? You actually need media to post on Instagram. And so, you want to have, content that grabs attention. You also want to be very, concise and direct. I've also seen some effective posts where, storytelling is also a really good, effective strategy across the board. I think some of the fundamental differences between Facebook and LinkedIn are the audiences, right? It's really important to think about the audiences that are on these platforms. LinkedIn, more professionals, folks who, might be more interested in research, maybe, articles about trends or, industry trends, business trends, right? Things like that. It's not to say that you can't, convert folks from LinkedIn, but you definitely want to think about the audiences that are on there where, you're probably, with Facebook or Instagram, it's probably easier to, sell your product, right? Through an ad. If you're the owner of a shoe company, right, and you have an ad up, it shows the shoe, right? Instagram it's a really nicely designed shoe. Instagram is a really good place, right? On LinkedIn, you might be talking more about, the innovation, right, and just about maybe the industry, right? You get folks to your website, and then they might be, somewhat more likely to buy the product or look at it more. So I hope that helps with that question.
Great. So again, thank you for your time today. How can people contact you?
Oh yeah, the best way to contact me, my email is alex@giggrabbers.com. So feel free to shoot me an email. It's alex@giggrabbers.com.
Thanks. And you and I, Alex, we could go on, but I will be respectful of other people's time. Watching 45 minutes of this is fine for a while, but you and I could go 3 hours on a myriad of different topics, and we talked about doing it. We just haven't done it. So maybe next time we will. But as for that, I want to thank Alex Griffin, CEO of Giggrabbers, for joining us today on Discuss with Russ. You can reach me at russell.rivera@voicewealth.com, RUSSELL.Rivera. That's River with an A. voicewealth.com. Or, if you want to have a chat, give me a call at 646-630-0980. For you on call today, we will be sending a follow-up email with a link to the recording, which you will be able to find on voicewealth.com/blog, or you can view all of our videos, including past episodes of Discuss with Russ, on the Voice Wealth Management YouTube channel. And it usually takes probably about a week, maybe Tuesday next week, but we'll be able to get this video up on YouTube and the website. As our future shows, we've got a lot planned. Next Wednesday, May 27th, 2 p.m., we will have Summer Rose of Star Organizers discuss her journey regarding business, personal organizing, securing PPP for hospitals around the world during this period. We'll also, on June 3rd, we're scheduled to have Andrew Kaplan, he's a psychotherapist, and on June 10th, we're scheduled to have Adam Citron to discuss family law and family law matters. And on June 17th, we are scheduled to have Ross Carl of 3P Insurance to talk about life and disability insurance and how those marketplaces may have changed as a result of our cultural and world moment.
Wow, that's
so
awesome lineup right there.
there's a lot there. And if you'd like to register for any of those webinars, you can reach out to me again at russell.rivera@voicewealth.com and check your email inbox start Friday, where we'll be able to put something together for you regarding that, and can register directly. So with that, Alex, thank you again. And we'll see you next time on Discuss with Russ.
Thank you, Russell. And thanks to all the audience members that watch. Thank you for your time.
All right.